Hello, welcome to section 3 of Rapid C++. In this section of basic programming concepts, we are going to cover arrays, conditionals, loops, and pointers. And finally, there will be one exercise video that covers arrays, conditional, loop, as well as a pointer. So let's begin with our first video on arrays. In this video, we are going to cover single and multidimensional array. So let's get started. So far, in our previous examples, we have been dealing with a single variable. So let's say if we need to store a one integer variable, we were defining it as int a, and maybe if we need to, we can store it as int a comma b. But what if we need more than n number of variables, which is to an extent unknown? So that's where the array comes in. So a single dimensional array, it has a number of elements in one dimension only. And that can be defined as, first we need to define the variable type, declare this, then this is the array name, and within the bracket we need to give the number. In this case we are declaring an array A which contains 10 integers numbers. Now do note that in C++ the array starts from 0. So in this case because this has number 10 elements, so the maximum number or the maximum dimension that we can cover is 9. So it is 0 to 9. Also note that C++ doesn't do any bound checking. So if we want to access 11th element of this array, this will create an error. Now, after we declare this array, what will happen with those 10 elements? This is compiler dependent and it's supposed to be 0, but in certain cases on certain operating system, it may not be 0. So it's always a good idea to assign a default value to all the elements. So let's assume that we want to assign a value of 0 to all the 10 elements in this array A. So we can do this by typing in this way. So let's put an equals to sign, curly bracket, and just put the default value in. So in this case, all the variables within that array will be assigned a default value of 0. If we want to assign a value to a specific element in this array, we can do it in this way. So first we need to type the array name. Within bracket, we need to find out the index number, the nth element that we want to access. So let's assume it's 2, and then equals to an integer value. How do we know that this has been stored? So we can retrieve this value and print this. So let's retrieve it. So to retrieve, we need to type the array name, within bracket the index number or the nth number that we want to access. So in this case it will be number 2, and this line will bring out the value that is been stored in this array A. So let's build this and run. So as we can see, we have stored number 20 in the third element and we have successfully retrieved it. So this is how we can declare an array. We can assign a default value, we can store a certain value to a specific array element, and then in this way we can also retrieve that stored value. So now let's take a look at the multidimensional array. So what do we mean by multi-dimensions? It can be assumed as an row and column, or maybe in the other direction or other dimension. So in this particular case, I'm declaring an array of integer type which has 10 maybe rows or columns, and the next one could be the either or one. So if the first one is row, we can assume the second one as column. There is no such restriction that this has to be row or a column. It is up to developer to use. Just take a note that the order it has been declared, the same order it has to be used, and storage and retrieval of variables to this array has to be in this particular order. So in this case, let's assume we are defining an array which has 10 rows and 2 columns in each row. So we can, just like the single dimensional array, we can also assign a default value in this here. So let's delete this because it's a multiple definition. And then if we want to assign a specific value, so let's say row number 2, column number 1, we want to assign a specific value which is 2. We can do it in this way, and the same value can be retrieved. So if we run this program, yes, as we have seen, we have stored a value of 2 and we have retrieved the value successfully. Now there is no such limitation in C++. We can always add another dimension, assuming this is X, Y and Z, and if we want to add another dimension, maybe T, we are free to do so. But it has to be stored in a similar order and it has to be retrieved in similar order. So that's all we need to do. So will this multi-dimensional array work? So let's take a look. So this is like X, Y, Z and T, 4 dimensions we have used. So we are assigning a value of second, which has a dimension of X is 2, Y is 1, Z is 0 and T is also 0, and we are assigning a value of 20. And in the next line we are going to retrieve the same value, just to demonstrate that how this multi-dimensional array works. So if we build and run this, yes, as you can see, we have stored a value of 20 and we have successfully retrieved the value of 20. But as you can see, such a multi-dimensional array is possible. Now let's take a look at a special type of array, which is array of character variables. As we know that each individual character comprises and they build a word, and then we can use those words to form a sentence, and that is what in C++ term is called a string. So in this case we have an array A, which is of char type. So basically it stores number of characters and it is storing 256 characters, and this has been declared in this manner, and now it has been assigned a value of a null character, which is \0. Now note that this is an array of character and a character is entered using single quote, so not like as a string which is in a double quote. So in this case we are declaring an array A which stores 256 characters and has been by default all the characters have been assigned a null character. Now we can store, unlike in some integers, in string operations are supported by some of the functions. So if we want to store a particular string or an array of characters, we can always do this in this way. So type strcpy. This is a function which is available in C string header file. So you need to include this line number 2 here. So after that we need to type the array, which in A in our case, and we can then type the string that we want to copy to. So now this function will copy this hello world as an array of characters to the array A. We can now print this array using cout function. So let's build this, and if we run this, we can see hello world string is being printed. So this is how we can use an array of character variables to form a string. And we can also extend the concept of this to store multiple string in a single array. So all we need to do is just add another dimension, so number of rows here. So let's say we want to do it 2. So this becomes a multi-dimensional array of characters. In a simpler terms, it will store 2 strings as an array of characters. So the same default value will be assigned to 0 to all the elements in this array, and we can simply in this case, because this has 2 dimensions, so now we need to specify which row we want to copy this function to, copy this string to. So let's copy this to the first one, and let's add another sentence. So now that's in row number 0 it will be stored hello world, and in row number 2 it will be stored to all, and we can then retrieve those individual rows using this format, and we will be able to print the 2 lines individually. So as you can see, there were 2 rows, both of them were copied with a string, and then both of them were retrieved and printed in a single line. So this is how we can also create an array of characters use it as a set of string. In this video, we learned how to declare an array, how to store variables in individual elements, and how to retrieve individual elements. We covered both single and multiple dimensional arrays in this video.